Over Puget Sound in the summer of 1947, two men said they saw a glowing formation break apart in the sky, and a metallic fragment seemed to fall from it. Before the era of flying saucers had even settled into the public mind, the Maury Island Incident was already asking a dangerous question: what came down that day? Maury Island sits in Washington's inland waters, not far from Tacoma, where ferries, fishing boats, and low clouds make the sky feel close enough to touch. In that setting, any strange light above the water would have felt immediate, intimate, and hard to dismiss. The case belongs to the first frantic months of the saucer age, when post-war America was already scanning the heavens for signs of something new. Reports were multiplying fast, but this one stood out because it was tied not just to lights, but to debris, witnesses, and official attention. At the center were two local men, Dahl and Fred Crisman, who claimed they were working a boat near the island when 6 disc-like objects appeared overhead. According to their account, one craft shed hot metallic material that struck the water and their vessel. That detail matters because the story was not only about an object in the sky, but about something tangible entering the physical world. If the fragments were real, then the incident moved from rumor into the harder territory of evidence. Dahl said the falling material damaged his boat and injured his son's dog, while the air itself seemed to carry an unusual pressure. Whether every detail was accurate or not, the claim gave the event a strange weight that ordinary sighting stories rarely have. The next morning, the men reportedly showed the debris to others, and the material was described as light, metallic, and unlike common scrap. That is one of the case's enduring puzzles. If the fragments were ordinary, why did they seem so unusual to the people handling them? Soon after, the story moved beyond a local boating incident and into the orbit of military interest. In the fevered summer of 1947, any strange object report could attract serious attention, but this one reportedly drew it quickly and intensely. A name often linked to the case is Kenneth Arnold, whose famous sighting helped ignite the flying saucer era. The Maury Island story became entangled with that larger moment, as if several mysteries had briefly crossed paths in the same summer sky. That connection gave the incident a larger stage, but it also made the case harder to separate from the turbulence of the time. When a new phenomenon is still forming in public imagination, every witness account can become part of a larger, unstable pattern. What kept the Maury Island story alive was the sense that multiple things were happening at once: a sighting, a debris claim, and a fast-moving official response. That combination makes the case feel less like a single event and more like a chain of pressure points. The most compelling detail may be the timing. Witnesses placed the encounter in the same narrow window when American skies were suddenly crowded with reports, which raises a difficult question. Was this one of the first true debris cases, or a story shaped by the moment itself? Another detail that lingers is the description of the objects themselves. They were not said to hover like balloons or flash like meteors, but to move in formation, with a controlled, purposeful quality that witnesses remembered long after the event. Then there is the debris, which supporters of the case have always treated as the heart of the matter. If material truly fell from the sky, it suggests a machine, an event, or a technology that left traces behind rather than vanishing into pure legend. Investigators later noted conflicting accounts about the fragments, the injuries, and exactly who handled what. Those contradictions matter, yet they do not erase the basic strangeness of a story that began with an object overhead and ended with official scrutiny. The case also took a darker turn when a military aircraft reportedly crashed while carrying people connected to the investigation. That accident has long fed the sense that the Maury Island story was moving through territory larger and riskier than a simple local hoax. For believers, that sequence feels too charged to be accidental: a sky event, physical debris, then a fatal crash in the aftermath. Even if the links are debated, the chain of events gives the incident a grim historical gravity. Skeptical readers point to a different pattern, one built from exaggeration, opportunism, and the chaos of early saucer reporting. In that reading, the Maury Island incident may have grown through retelling, with each step adding drama to an already sensational summer. That explanation remains plausible, especially because the era was full of misidentifications, rumor, and genuine confusion. Still, it does not fully settle why the debris claim was made so early, or why it was taken seriously enough to draw official attention. The strongest believer case rests on convergence, rather than a single perfect proof. Multiple witnesses, a reported object in formation, fragments said to be recovered, and a rapid escalation into military concern create a picture that refuses to sit neatly in one category. And yet the record is uneven, with second-hand statements, disputed timelines, and a case history that became tangled with the larger birth of the flying saucer era. That is exactly why it still fascinates. The story seems to hover between hard fact and unstable memory. What remains unresolved is not simply whether something flew over Maury Island, but what kind of event could generate so many layers of testimony so quickly. Was it a misread military moment, a local fabrication, or a genuine encounter that arrived before the language existed to explain it? The case also leaves an emotional residue because it sits at the edge of a national awakening. In 1947, people were learning how to speak about strange things in the sky, and Maury Island may have been one of the first places where that language broke open. If the debris was ordinary, the story still reveals how quickly ordinary objects can become extraordinary under the right conditions. If it was not ordinary, then the incident points toward a presence in the sky that left more than a memory behind. That is why the Maury Island incident never quite fades. It is not only a tale of lights over water, but of evidence that may have been real, testimony that may have been shaped, and a mystery that still resists closure. When the first saucer age began, some cases became famous because they were clean and simple. Maury Island endures because it is not clean at all, and because the messiness itself may be part of whatever happened there. The more closely the incident is examined, the more it feels like a doorway, rather than a conclusion. Something was reported, something was handled, and something was lost in the rush between witness, authority, and memory. That is the enduring pull of the Maury Island story. A strange sky, a claimed impact, and a trail of consequences that never quite line up. Even now, the case leaves us asking whether the first debris of the saucer era was ever fully understood. And if it was not understood, then perhaps the most important part of the incident is still waiting somewhere between the fragments, the testimony, and the silence that followed. In that sense, Maury Island remains less a closed file than an open horizon. The objects may have vanished, but the question they left behind still hangs over the water. The official record points one way, the witness story another, and the debris claim sits uneasily between them. That tension is exactly what keeps the case alive after all these years. For anyone drawn to the early history of unexplained aerial encounters, this is where the modern mystery begins to feel real. Not in a perfect photograph or a clean statement, but in a confusing human moment beside the water.